Seniesa Estrada, thank you very much for coming on to TheBoxingBar.com and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Seniesa, next Friday, July 9th, you'll be back in the Squared Circle at the Bank of California Stadium in your hometown of Los Angeles. You'll be taking on Tenkai Tsunami for the WBO World Light Fly-weight title, which will be televised on DAZN. But before we get into that, first off, I realized just a bit ago that it was your birthday, I think, last weekend?
Yes, it was.
Happy belated birthday, and what did you do? Did you go out, have fun? What did you do?
I sparred 12 rounds, and then I came home and was exhausted the rest of the day, so I just watched TV.
Oh, wow.
I'll celebrate after the fight, though.
There you go. I remember back in the day, when I was a kid, there was a joke anyway. It went something like, why isn't there any Mexican heavyweights in boxing? And the answer was, because once they reach 200 pounds, they join the mariachi. And I know it's hard to stay disciplined and not to eat on your birthdays and celebrating days like that when you have an upcoming fight. Is it pretty hard for you to stay away and stay disciplined, on days like your birthday and stuff like that?
No, it's really easy. I've been doing this since I was 8, so I've missed a lot of birthdays. I missed a lot of holidays. And, one thing that I already have in my mind is that there's no holidays in boxing, because when you're in training camp for a fight, you don't have the time or the energy for a lot of things. So I do miss out on a lot of things like my birthday or, events with my family and things like that. But of course, fighting and winning makes it all worth it.
Very true. And we'll get back, like I said, back into your upcoming fight there. But, first of all, I'd like to do a little background on you. Where were you born and raised? I know everybody always says, that you're from East LA and that's where you hail from, but were you actually born and raised there?
Yes, I was born and raised in East LA. I was actually born at the same hospital that Oscar De La Hoya was born at as well. And born and raised in East LA, started training in the heart of East LA, which is considered Boyle Heights, at the age of 8.
The times I've gone to East LA, and I actually even got busted a few years ago in East LA when I went over there, but that's another story. But, for a Hispanic person, you go there and you see all the eateries and all the people that are like you, and you kind of get into that. And at the same time, being raised there, and knowing, all the hard stuff that goes on there, is it pretty hard to not get into that life, of all the bad things that can happen there with gangs and all that stuff?
I think because I started boxing at such a young age that it's easy. It's easy because I had something to look forward to and something to keep me out of trouble and away from those friends and bad influences that were around me. Because of course, growing up in East LA is very hard, and there's a lot of young people who don't become very successful living here. Like almost everyone that I went to, elementary, middle school, high school, there's so many of them who are in prison for life, who I see around the neighborhood, hooked on drugs. Some passed away. So, it's really hard to just stay away from that lifestyle, whether you're a guy or a girl. So, thankfully boxing is something that kept me very disciplined and always gave me a future to look forward to.
I know your dad got you, or he's the one that kind of, didn't mind you boxing after a while, but like your mom, did she back that decision there?
Oh no, she was totally against me fighting. When I first started, she didn't like it. When I was fighting, I had over 100 amateur fights, and she went to maybe 2 that I can remember, because she never wanted to see me fight, and she didn't want to see me get hit. She was always afraid of that. And then she wanted me to pursue my education and to just have a regular job while going to school and going to college, and that's just not what I wanted. I knew what my goals and what my dreams were, and they were to be a professional fighter and to be able to do it full time. And for a long time she didn't understand that until recently, honestly. Me and my mom are very close, but when it comes to boxing, she just would rather have me have a great education instead. But now as a professional, within the past couple of years, now she won't miss a fight. She's my biggest supporter, biggest fan. I think she just kind of had to see my dreams kind of unfold for her to believe me
Right.
and to, because I understand as a mother, like she would see me struggle so much and see how hurt I was because,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I understand where she's coming from as being a parent and being a mom. She just wanted to make sure that, I was
Yeah.
happy and
No
being
parent
able to
wants to
just be
see
successful.
no parent wants to see their baby get hit. That's for sure.
Yeah, that too, for sure.
And like you said, and I'm glad you brought it up. You did have over 100 amateur fights or so, and that's what builds a foundation. I think that's why, like, I think the first time I saw you in the pro ring, it's like that pro belongs there. And there's some pros today where you're like, what are they doing in that ring? And I think
Hmm.
I think it's very important, that somebody builds a strong foundation in the amateur career. Should that be available? Do you feel the same way? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like you can see the difference in fighters when they have a very strong amateur background and going into the pros, they seem to transition very well because of it. So yeah, me having a big amateur background definitely helped me transition into the pros very easily. And I feel like, I didn't really have to change too much in my style because even as an amateur, I still have the same style. But now, of course, in the professionals, you just kind of perfect everything and make sure everything is even better.
What made you decide, like, let's say after your last amateur fight, what made you say, all right, now it's time to go pro? What was the main factor for that decision there?
Because I won the USA Nationals and I would have had to wait another like 2.5 years to go to the Olympics. And I just didn't want to stay in the amateurs for another 2.5 years before trying to make the first Olympic team for women in boxing. Having over 100 amateur fights, it's like it wears you out just mentally, and then all the traveling that you have to do. Like I've traveled so much from the age of 8 all the way to like 17. So I don't know. It's just I just wanted a change. I wanted to turn pro, but I just didn't know how difficult it would be to transition into the pros as far as like being signed by a big promoter and fighting on TV. Like I didn't know that women's boxing was pretty much like non-existent in the professionals. It's barely within the past couple of years, we're starting to get all the recognition and proper promotion that women's boxing should have been getting years ago.
In May of 2011, you do your pro debut there at the Two Match Casino, which my mom literally lives at now. She's always
Oh,
there at the
cool.
casino, but you do your pro debut there. What do you remember about that first day? Going through the drapes for the first time to become a
Man,
pro. Was it just another day in the office, or was it something that'll stand out in your mind forever?
it's something that I always remember. Like I was, man, 2011. Wow, like it's crazy to think like how slow my professional career started. Like I was fighting like once a year. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's definitely a day I'll never forget. I remember I was extremely nervous, like my hands were dripping with sweat, and then it just so happened that my favorite fighter at the time was Sergio Martinez, and Sergio Martinez was there sitting front row, and that made me even more nervous because I had the biggest crush on Sergio, and I was like his biggest fan at the time,
And
and
he
I
was
was telling my
training in
trainer,
Oxnard at the time too.
yeah, that's right. And I was telling my trainer, oh my God, I hope he leaves before I fight because I'm going to be even more nervous if he's watching me fight. And I remember he was still there watching and I fought. And then after the fight, um, he came up to me and asked me for a picture and gave me a bunch of compliments on how well I did and how impressed he was. So yeah, it was really cool. It's a moment that I'll always remember.
Oh wow, what a standout moment there! And a month and a half later, you fight again, and then after that, you don't fight for about 3 years. I
Hmm.
didn't I wanted to look into that and see why, but at the same time, I said, you know what? I'll just ask her directly when I get her on.
Yeah.
Why did you fight for those 3 years in between?
I couldn't get a fight. No big promoter wanted to sign any females at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped boxing for almost a year because I basically just gave up. I was like, why am I doing this? I went back to school, got my associate's degree, and then went back to the gym and started slowly training again. But there was still just like nothing happening. So yeah, that was a really, really rough time in my life and in career for sure.
Thinking back, actually about that time or so, about 2012, 2013-ish, I remember I had on a girl that actually, now I live in Chico, California, and it was a
Hmm.
girl from Chico, California. Her name was Ava Knight. Um, and I had her on, and I remember around that time, her, Kalisha Wawa West, Melissa McMurrow, a whole bunch of girls
Hmm.
I've interviewed in the past. They were coming on social media and just pleading out to promoters, to anybody that would listen, saying, "Hey, we're women fighters. We need people to help us out here. What's going on?" And it seemed like there was a whole band of great female fighters that weren't given a chance, an opportunity to go and
Right.
support your guys' athletic abilities. 2012 happened. The women were the more successful over the men at that Olympics. 2016, I would say about the same.
Hmm.
What do you think of this uprise, I guess, in boxing here?
Oh yeah, it's totally changed, and it's just getting better and better because women's sports is becoming bigger and bigger.
Hmm.
Not just, and then also with women's sports becoming bigger, it's only going to make women's boxing become bigger, and every sport for women. But yeah, it's come such a long way. Like now, I feel like in the past 2 years, my career as a professional is barely starting because it's barely starting the way it should have been in the beginning of my career. And yeah, the beginning of my career was so difficult. I was fighting outside of weight classes that I shouldn't have been fighting at because the girls were so much bigger. Wasn't fighting on TV. Just had to take the fights and take the money that was offered, and just so I can stay active and build my record. But now every big promoter has a female signed, and we're fighting as co-main events, even main events, being televised. So it's come such a long way. And like coming up as a kid, like I always knew that this moment would happen, but I just didn't know when. So I just had to have a lot of patience and really just have faith in myself that it would happen someday.
Your nickname Superbad. I think that's an awesome name. Because you have a name like that, is it extra pressure for you to live up to that nickname? And at the same time, how did you get that nickname?
I don't really think about that as far as like trying to live up to it. I just work hard and, hopefully put on super bad performances. But the nickname came from my favorite fighter, Sugar Ray Leonard. Um, Most people don't know this, but he only like mentions it in his book, which I've read many times. And he talks about how when he was a kid, his trainer and everybody in the gym used to call him Superbad. So that's where I got the name from.
When you think about it, in a lot of ways, you're like your promoter, Oscar De La Hoya. You guys started since you guys were kids. You guys had, great amateur backgrounds. Your fathers were the driving force,
Hmm.
behind you. You guys had the skills. You guys had the great looks. Both from East Los and everything. To me, it was just a matter of time before someone like them, would have recognized you. But how do you feel about that? Really, when you think about that moment when you signed with Golden Boy Promotion, and for them to see you in that way as
Hmm.
well.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a dream come true because, of course, coming from the same place that Oscar comes from, and him being an idol, an inspiration to me since I was a kid. Signing with them was always my first choice of promoter that I would have wanted to sign with. So just them taking the opportunity to sign women and to sign me was just the best feeling ever. And I always, just I'm so thankful. And Oscar's been so awesome at just being so supportive and so proud and so happy that we come from the same place. And it's just great to just see how we have so much in common, and we're just have the same passion, the same goals in our careers. He does a great job at trying to make sure that I have the fights that I want every fight, which is what we did this fight. He knew that I wanted to fight for another world, either unify or fight for another world title. So he did whatever he could to make this next fight happen for a world title.
I was watching a couple of your fights not too long ago, and I watched a past fight when you fought Christina Fuentes, I believe. and
Mm-hmm.
you were, I think, dropped for the first time, like in the third round, and you got right back up. Sometimes a fighter learns something about themselves after being dropped for the first time, and
Mm-hmm.
how they respond to it. What do you think you learned from that first knockdown, or how you reacted to that, or how that felt and how you bounced back from that? What do you remember what you learned from being dropped for the first time?
Yeah, I remember in that fight, she was a lot heavier. So going into the fight, our game plan was to just be smart and just box. And then I was landing a lot. I was landing clean shots, and I believe I like had her against the ropes, and I was trying to just land too many hard punches. And that's the one thing my trainer told me not to do, but I did it. And I was like in the middle of like switching stance, and I left myself wide open, and I got caught with a punch, and I wasn't hurt at all. It was like a flash knockdown, got right back up. But I definitely learned a lot from it, because now I understood what my trainer was trying to tell me when he says, you don't need to throw every punch hard, and you have to stay smart, especially when you're fighting a fighter who's physically heavier than you. So, yeah, I definitely learned a lot from that, and I won't be making those kind of mistakes again.
Like we were talking about a little bit ago, how people are barely starting to open up and kind of open their eyes and, hopefully open their hearts to women boxing. But there's only those certain names that people have already where they said, all right, that's someone to watch out for. And people are barely picking up those names and putting them together and kind of in their mind saying, all right, what fights will be the best, for these fighters here. You're most likely in everybody's mind as far as one of the best female boxers of, pound for pound. When you signed the fight with Marlene Esparza, that was probably one of the best matches that could have been made in women's boxing for a lot of different reasons. Your
Mm-hmm.
guys' styles, probably because you guys are both Latina. Everybody wants that. The two Mexicans to go at it. What did that mean to you to get to that level to fight somebody? Like Marlene. She was coming off the Olympics, one of the most popular women fighters out there. What did that mean to you? Like, was that pretty special to you when you got that fight?
Yeah, for sure. I always want to make sure that no matter who my opponent is, that it's considered a big fight, because people want to watch me fight. So that's my goal. And I feel like there's still, of course, hasn't been enough people who have seen me fight, because not all of my fights have been televised. And I feel like we just need to keep pushing for that and make sure that every fight is televised, so that more and more people get to know me, more and more people become a fan, and then every fight that I have is even bigger and bigger with the more publicity and following that I gain.
Right.
And yeah, fights like that are huge. Fights like that mean a lot to me, because I love how people get excited, and even people who aren't typically women's boxing fans get excited to see a good female matchup like that. And yeah, I just hope that it brings excitement like that with every champion that I face.
A lot of us that were watching that, I believe that fight was on the undercard of Canelo and Kovalev, maybe I think it was.
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, just off the top of their head, they were saying, well, the Olympian, yeah, that's the person that's going to win.
Mm-hmm.
But then
Yeah.
as you start watching the fight, you're like, wait a second here. Everybody starts kind of, changing their mind there. What did you think?
Yeah.
What did you think of that actual fight? You guys in there, and what did you think of her in particular? Was she better than you expected? Was she as you expected? Was she not as tough as you expected?
My game plan was exactly what I expected. I knew that she was saying a lot of negative stuff about me and saying that I was going to get tired and this and that, but I knew that it was all because that's how she felt about herself. I knew that she was going to wear down by like the fourth round. She was walking back to her corner, breathing hard, and was already the body shots. We wanted to work the body, because we knew that would definitely slow her down. Started to slow down little by little. The head clash happened in like the fifth round, I believe, and I just kept keeping the pressure on her. And even when she tried to come forward, I was hitting her with the cleaner, bigger shots, and then I was pushing her back. And I think a lot of people didn't expect that, because her being the Olympian and me being the smaller fighter. And I think even the commentators were garbage that fight. I even think that they were more a little one-sided with her because she was the Olympian. But
I did notice that. I did notice that.
Yeah. And but that's fine. But yeah, and I know in the ninth round, but like she can make all the excuses that she wants. Bottom line, she quit with one more round to go because she was afraid to come out of the corner because rewatching the fight over and over, I hit her in the eighth round with a shot that just like kind of wobbled her. Ninth round, she was even more exhausted, and I know the punches were affecting her even more. And an easy way out is to just say the blood's in my eye, I can't see. But looking back at the tape, like there was no blood in her eye, making her, unable to see. And that's why I would definitely give her the rematch. She was saying that she wanted the rematch, and then once I said that, let's do it, let's do the rematch. I kind of think she is she's kind of backing out of that rematch now. I mean, I know she had said that she still wants the rematch, but not now. So we'll see. But when we do fight, it'll be even bigger. So bigger for the both of us. So that's great.
What did you think of that extra minute there? You guys actually, or she had fought before in the 3 minute rounds. What did you think of that extra minute? Being at your first time that you were in there fighting 3 minute rounds.
Oh, I loved it. I wish I could fight 3 minute rounds every fight. I knew that the 3 minute rounds wouldn't affect me. I felt like I was just able to do more and to keep putting the pressure on her because I kind of knew that she would slow down first and wouldn't be able to handle the 3 minute rounds. And then for this fight with Tsunami, well, we tried to get 3 minute rounds with Ortiz too for the title fight, but the Texas Commission didn't allow it because certain states don't allow women to go 3 minute rounds. Right. But for this fight with Tsunami, the WBO organization said yes to 3 minute rounds, and then the California the Athletic Commission said yes to 3 minute rounds, but Tsunami said no, we don't want to go 3 minute rounds.
Oh, so wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, we even offered her an extra $10,000 to go 3 minute rounds, and she still said no. So it's that's the thing about because everyone's asking me that question about if I want to fight 3 minute rounds, and I think it should be changed. And I totally want the rule to officially be changed to 3 minute rounds, but it's going to be hard. There's actually a lot of women who don't want to do 3 minute rounds.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I bet.
Yeah. And then there's some that do. I think it's like, the top females like, Clarissa, Serrano, Taylor, myself, Michaela Mayer, like we all want to do those 3 minute rounds. But at the same time, there's a lot of our opponents who don't want to.
Yeah, I think those 3 minute rounds do force you guys to be able to say, see, we can compete with the men. We can do what they do, and I think if they keep giving you 2 minute rounds as a pro, I think people are going to say, see, that's why they're different than men are, and
yeah.
Also, I do know that Marlene's been saying a lot of things like her fights that she's had since you guys' fight have been better than yours and stuff like that. What do you think about that?
Oh, no way. Her fights are all the same. Her fights are all the same. Her fights are all boring. She doesn't get better. So, yeah, no way.
So with this fight with Tsunami, what did you do different for training camp for this particular fight?
For this fight, I'm basically just, she is a very awkward fighter. That's one thing that is different about her style is that she's very awkward and does things. I wouldn't say it's hard to describe. Very awkward, but she makes a lot of mistakes, and I'm just gonna make sure that I capitalize on the mistakes that she makes because most of her opponents don't make her pay for her mistakes, and she's able to fight comfortable at her own pace and do what she's used to doing. So with this training camp, I've just been perfecting myself and everything that I do, my style, because my style in general is what's gonna throw her off and get me the win.
And I'm sure she plans to be a natural disaster and wipe that title away from your possession next week. For the fans out there, why should they tune in next week, July 9th, on DAZN to watch your particular fight against Tenkai Tsunami?
Well, because I definitely going to put on a great performance. Just coming out of a world title fight and going right back into another one. I'm in great physical shape and 100% ready mentally. So it's going to be an exciting performance, an exciting fight. So I just guarantee that I will be WBO World Champion next Friday. So Yeah, no, you guys don't want to miss it. Live on DAZN and live at the Bank of California.
And thank you very much, Seniesa. Thank you very much for coming on. And I just
Thank
want to
you.
say about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I was supposed to
Hmm.
actually interview you a long time ago. And so trust me, I've known about you for a very long time. It didn't happen for whatever reason. But, I'm glad that all these years later, finally, I could, see you as a success in the sport, see everything you've done. And every time I see a new accomplishment from you, I can actually say to myself, man, I've known about that girl for a long time, and look at everything she's doing. And I'm very proud of you. Amiga, thank you very much for coming on to theboxingbar.com. It was an honor and pleasure to finally get you on, and thank you very much for being yourself.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate